You will pay for what you did.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Daredevil Born Again Episode 8 video. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references. We've only got one episode left in Season 1. They're already filming Season 2 right now. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything. I will start doing more Season 2 videos after the finale. This episode is notable for a couple different reasons. In addition to Bullseye escaping and almost killing Daredevil and Kingpin, trying to kill Kingpin, but almost wind up killing Daredevil instead because he tried to save Kingpin. We will unpack that in a second, like why would Matt try to save if he knew that Bullseye was going to try and kill him? Wouldn't Matt want Kingpin to die? There's a very important reason why he didn't want Kingpin to die. It all goes back to something that Bullseye literally tells him in the episode, that that's what good men do. They defend their worst enemies, so he is literally defending his worst enemy from death. But the episode is also only one of 3 different ones this season that are completely from the brand new creative team that took over the show after Kevin Foggy fired the old creative team. So we've been talking about how they rebooted the reboot of Daredevil Born Again. Kevin Foggy basically decided that everything they were doing were complete crap, fired the old creative team, and brought back a bunch of people that worked on the Netflix shows, which hindsight 2020 he probably should have done to begin with. But apparently, the old creative team had already filmed everything from episode 2 to episode 7. So when the new creative team came in, they really only did episode 1. Like they shot a brand new pilot, which was episode 1, and then they did episodes 8 and 9, and then that was it. They moved on to season 2. So a lot of the complaints about the pacing, what the characters were doing, just what in general the show was working on most of this season, can largely be blamed on the original creative team, which they fired a long time ago. I would say episodes 8 and episode 9 are more indicative of what season 2 is going to feel like because it's all from the new creative team. And generally, this episode, the pacing was way better. It just felt like a much better episode, also because of all the Bullseye stuff. Like, everything is coming full circle. Like, they're finally addressing some of the big questions at the beginning of the series. Matt going into detective mode, trying to figure out why Foggy was really killed, and turns out it was actually Vanessa behind everything. That's basically the big twist of the episode, is that Vanessa is responsible for Foggy's supposed death. She's the person who hired Bullseye to kill him originally. The episode is titled Isle of Joy, which is a reference both to a song and to the whole Bullseye of it all, going back to the beginning in Foggy's death. They start the episode, though, with a soothing, soft music, which is called Stillness and Panic, which is a good way to describe Kingpin and Daredevil at the end of the episode, with the way things go with Bullseye, also revealing that this opening scene is Bullseye watching the hedges being trimmed, the roses being trimmed outside his prison window. Them using the blue rose is also meant to be a reference to the Bullseye vision, like the perspective that you go into during the episode a couple times, where you're seeing things the way that Bullseye sees them when he's zeroing it, like when he's locking in on his targets. All because it seems like Bullseye has been cooking up a plan to eventually escape prison or get out somehow. I would bet he has a couple different contingency plans, so the way he does wind up escaping is based a lot on the things that Matt winds up doing, but he didn't completely plan it out that way from the beginning. He was just looking for different possibilities, and that wound up being the best one. But the way he does wind up escaping from prison in this episode is a big callback to the comics, escaping using one of his broken teeth. That is meant to be a big comic book moment.
We used to just call it cop snitches and psychos.
Generally, they use the first part of the episode, though, to catch you up with what he's been doing since the events of episode 1 when they locked him up. When the guards claim that they don't ever let him have any objects is because he can use them as weapons, which obviously winds up leading to his escape using the broken tooth as a weapon. ESH means Enhanced Supervision Housing Status, which is how the United States prison system handles its most dangerous inmates, segregating them into special separate housing outside of Gen Pop. This guard calls him Poindexter. His name is Benjamin Poindexter. He's meant to be the first version of Bullseye in the comics. When he tells them he's not supposed to be here in Gen Pop, it's because he's supposed to be in the special housing again. Like, he's not supposed to be with the other inmates. And they treat this a lot like Kingpin during Daredevil Season 2 when he tried to have Punisher killed inside prison, sending him to those other inmates, basically throwing him to the wolves, kind of like Kingpin, although technically it's Vanessa doing this, throwing him to the Gen Pop wolves. That episode of Daredevil Season 2 with Kingpin and Punisher, probably one of the best episodes of the series. But if it wasn't clear here, remember, the guards here were actually working with Kingpin and Vanessa to put Bullseye in Gen Pop so that he would be killed by the other inmates, or that's what they hope would happen. Later in the episode, when we hear the conversation between Buck and one of the guards asking if he's dead, I think that's confirming that Vanessa is the person who was trying to clean up her mess, quote unquote, because she originally hired Bullseye in the first place. Kingpin didn't know about it. So even though later in the episode, Matt thinks that Kingpin tried to have Bullseye moved in Gen Pop, technically it was Vanessa using Buck Cashman to do that. So Vanessa only wanted it to look like the order was coming through the mayor's office. This is why later she tells Kingpin that she has something that she wants to reveal to him, but doesn't have the chance to before the end of the episode. Like, oh, I hired this guy who was tied up with us before, who already hated you, tried to have him kill one of Daredevil's best friends who also hate you. It went completely sideways, and now he's back and threatening us again. So I think part of the idea here too is that Bullseye incorrectly thinks that Kingpin is the person who hired him to do all this stuff in the past. So that's why he's trying to kill Kingpin in present day too when he escapes from prison. He thinks he's getting revenge against Kingpin when really it's Vanessa to blame for everything that happened. During the opening credits, they add Bullseye and Swordsman because there's another big Swordsman cameo during this episode. Seems like we might even see more of him on the series. I don't know if he'll be back in Season 2 or not, but it just seems like he's tied up in this big port project. Then we go back to Red Hook with Kingpin telling Vanessa that he's gotten the funding for the port project largely thanks to her work with the rich people, also the fact that he's now blackmailing them full on using the Punisher cops, the task force that he put together. When she chides him for throwing away his criminal empire, this is a little misguided because even though he thinks he's serving a higher calling now, he's really just turning into Mayor Kingpin, which will eventually lead to him seeking more and more power, like basically turning New York City into a police state, using these Punisher cops as his personal attack dogs. Just like earlier this season, Buck Cashman basically said it out loud, "You are more powerful now as mayor than you were as actual Kingpin." They reference getting rid of Luca together, confirming what everybody thought after last week's episode. Like, no, Vanessa knew that Luca was going to be killed by Kingpin. She wasn't worried about Luca being successful. Then we go to Daredevil and Heather Glenn. He's leaving for work in the morning, and basically we slowly start to witness the dissolution of their relationship. Like, their relationship is basically ending over the fact that he is Daredevil and what he wants, his fundamental goals, are just in complete opposition to what she believes.
They were both out there for themselves.
She basically spends this entire conversation saying that Daredevil is just as bad as Muse or any of the other bad vigilantes out there, which obviously Matt does not agree with. Like, hold on there, how dare you compare Daredevil to Muse? When she likens them both to children, the funny thing about that is that that's the way that Vincent D'Onofrio talks about how he portrays the Kingpin character, basically like a giant child, a very, very giant child who is slowly growing larger thanks to those big dinners that he keeps having. Then we see Buck Cashman show up at his apartment, this is Matt's apartment, looking for Heather Glenn to give her the invitation, confirming that Kingpin has been keeping tabs on both of them. So remember, Kingpin knows his secret identity, which means that he probably already told Buck Cashman because he's kind of smiling in that evil way that Buck always smiles, like he knows exactly who Matt really is. And it's really just Kingpin messing with Matt, but also wanting to keep Heather Glenn close to him. Like Matt says later in the episode, you're done. Like, there's no way you can escape him now. He's not going to let you go. Which basically just means that she will never be rid of Kingpin. She doesn't really understand what's going on now. Like, she's just slowly learning the reality of the situation. Matt implies he's going to tell her the truth about everything, but then the end of the episode happens, Bullseye shows up, and he doesn't have the opportunity to. Maybe he'll wind up doing that in the finale, or she'll eventually figure it out on her own. They also confirmed this is the first time that Matt is learning that she is connected to Kingpin and that he was a client of hers. He figures it out on her own, even though she won't say exactly how she's connected to Kingpin, but like he puts two and two together pretty quickly. Then we find out the Kingpin has taken Vanessa to his torture basement where he's been keeping Adam locked up, confirming that it was in Red Hook this whole time, which makes sense. The show keeps going back to Red Hook. Kingpin is obsessed with Red Hook. He tries to explain his actions, why he kept him locked up this whole time. Vanessa confirms that she didn't know that Adam was here this whole time, but she's on board, and she winds up being the one to kill Adam, getting blood on her hands, which is also meant to be a callback to her being the one behind Bullseye in Foggy's death, or at least supposed death at the beginning of the series. They're basically going from showing you that Vanessa had blood on her hands metaphorically to now literally having blood on her hands because she literally killed Adam herself. If it wasn't clear from the Daredevil days back during the Netflix series, Vanessa was always this cold, like she was always really evil, but they never quite took it that far where she literally had blood on her hands until now. But I love the way they pace out the reveals during both of these different storylines, the Daredevil and the Kingpin storylines, where they're bouncing back and forth between the dissolution of Heather Glenn in Daredevil's relationship and Kingpin and Vanessa slowly growing closer, healing their relationship, their very twisted relationship. If it wasn't clear, that's kind of meant to be the trajectory they're on, like one relationship is dying as another one is getting stronger again. Bonding over the dead body in a torture basement the Kingpin has been going after for an entire year or more. We find out the Kingpin's party is a benefit for the Red Hook Port project that he basically uses to extort money out of other rich people in New York City one at a time. Like he calls them into his little torture room here to imply that he will torture them unless they pay up. Just a good old-fashioned shakedown. Basically, Mayor Kingpin residing in office now, like he's gone full Mayor Kingpin at this point. Pay me or I will send my Punisher cops after all of you, and I'll capture your husbands. Because it does sound like he's actually captured a couple people and is holding them hostage until the other rich people pay up. Basically, everybody in the city is now growing more and more afraid of him. Notice though when Vanessa kills Adam, the camera pans over to the bloodstain on Rabbit in a snowstorm, which is meant to be Kingpin's blood that Matt spilled on it when he took Kingpin out at the end of season 3. Kingpin just became obsessed with it and it just became part of the art piece and he's just been staring at it while he's been beating Adam for the last year.
I am better than I was.
Daredevil goes to the law firm with Kirsten McDuffie to meet with the person from Creedy, Laughlin, and McKagan with the financial troubles that they're trying to clear up, gets pissed off at the client who's clearly lying. Kind of feels like this new law firm isn't totally working out. We will see if the law firm winds up surviving to season 2 or if he winds up tanking that as well too, just like his relationship with Heather Glenn. Basically, everything with Kirsten McDuffie in this separate law firm was also from the old showrunners, so it does feel like the new showrunners used this episode to sort of speedrun past a lot of that plot. Like, okay, we're done with that, let's move on to some new stories, the stuff that we really want to talk about. So I wouldn't be surprised if the status quo in general, just for the show itself, like everything everybody is doing, changes a lot for season 2. But Kirsten turns Matt on to what's happening with Bullseye, letting him know that Bullseye contacted him specifically and wants his help in getting out of prison. Very important to remember that Bullseye knows that Matt Murdock is Daredevil, so potentially could make his life very difficult, just like Kingpin could also out him anytime he wants to. But this is sort of the beginning of Detective Daredevil putting together all the clues as to what happened with Foggy and Karen and Bullseye back a year ago. Why did he come after them in the first place? Who was behind that? Back in Kingpin's office of mayor, he cancels his morning press meetings, starting to act even more like classic Kingpin again, just doing whatever he wants, not paying attention to any of his obligations as actual mayor. Notice Buck's reaction in the back of the room too when he cancels all his meetings. He kind of laughs under his breath like, haha, finally. He wants to celebrate the success of the Punisher Cops task force, claiming vigilante crime is down 30%, but lawsuits against police for brutality are up way up. He actually said this when he formed the task force in the first place, that they would have special privileges, they'd be able to do whatever they wanted, and wouldn't be subject to the same laws of conduct that normal police would be. He winds up commending Daniel Blake for getting B.B. Urick to report on him in a positive manner and promotes him above the other aide, Sheila. Part of me feels like this is the beginning of the end for Daniel Blake's character too. Like this will wind up ultimately getting him killed at some point. Like he'll be collateral damage because he just seems way too happy to be Kingpin's lapdog. But the way the show's used the character, he's kind of like Kingpin Jr. And the reason why Kingpin likes him so much is because he probably thinks of him as a younger version of himself. Next, though, he orders Daniel Blake to basically deal with the city council and get them on board with the Red Hook project. When he says he'll burn for Kingpin, that's what I mean when I say it sounds like foreshadowing that something really bad is going to happen to him. Like, will he actually die by burning? That would be crazy ironic. Kingpin then pays off the conversation he had with Sheila earlier when he first became mayor, saying that Vanessa confirmed that his desk was LaGuardia's original desk. There are a couple more references to the Punisher cops during the episode. When Matt is sort of explaining everything that's wrong with what they're doing with the justice system right now, one of the things he mentions is connecting the Punisher cops to White Tiger's death, which they will pay off in episode 9, when we get a whole lot more Punisher. Like, all those scenes of them teaming up against the cops seem like they now come from episode 9 because we haven't seen that footage yet and there's only one episode left. Matt goes to see Josie at her bar. They say they haven't seen each other since Foggy's funeral, and she's talking about reopening the place, which they might do by season 2, because a lot of the footage we've seen of them filming season 2 is him in the black suit from the comics, also right in front of Josie's bar again.
Cheers.
Cheers.
She also mentions that Kingpin is handing out loans to small businesses, probably with super, super high interest rates, which is why she doesn't want to touch him. Like, I don't want any money from that guy. Kingpin probably using that as a racket to raise more money for his port project. I am not a financial advisor in any way, but I will tell you right now, probably not a good idea to take money from the Kingpin. It will not end well for you. Cherry comes in trying to keep tabs on Matt, and then Matt slowly starts to piece together the liquor, the booze that Foggy was drinking on the night that he supposedly died, and starts to piece things together with Vanessa or Kingpin being the ones behind the people who actually killed him. But at least at first here, he assumes that it was Kingpin who hired Bullseye. He doesn't figure out that it was Vanessa who did it till later in the episode. But the whole reason, if it wasn't clear, why Vanessa would have hired Bullseye to kill Foggy is because Foggy was about to win a court case and Vanessa was on the other side of that court case. She wanted to keep him from winning. That's why she had him killed. He goes to have his reunion with Bullseye, catching up on old times, who questions whether or not he was hired by Kingpin. It's a great scene, love this. It's a bit like his reunion scene with Punisher, like the tension is great. Bullseye tries to make a bargain with him, saying he'll reveal whether or not Kingpin hired him if he gets him out of prison, but also he's playing the gambit here, the different routes, different ideas that he has, how he'll escape. So when Matt bashes his head on the table, it loosens his tooth, and that's why he thanks him like, "Thank you, counselor." He's actually genuinely happy. All because he loosened his tooth enough so that he could use it to escape. He didn't know that Matt would do that, but he thought that that might be one of the possibilities, like one of the ideas he had for escaping. So if you're handing out blame, technically Matt is to blame for Bullseye escaping from prison because he bashed his head on the table. Then we go to Kingpin's party. There's a bunch more scenes with Daniel Blake and BB Urick. He tries to make nice with her, like a lot of his conversation makes it sound like he will eventually wind up getting killed because of something Kingpin does. Like Kingpin literally said, "You will burn for me," which seems like a very ominous thing to say. Swordsman comes back, the other rich person who spoke poorly to Kingpin earlier, now afraid of him because literally Kingpin disappeared her husband. No idea where he is. Like, have you seen him? Please tell me if you know where he is. Pretty much all the rich people in the city are terrified of him, and he's just blackmailing them one at a time, using whatever information he has on them. Swordsman, we find out, is him basically threatening to send the Punisher cops after him because they're sending them after all vigilantes, and technically Swordsman, even though he's super rich, is also a vigilante, so he can be thrown in prison. The actual theme of the ball, black and white, is meant to be a callback to Muse's mural of Kingpin in black and white. Notice Vanessa wearing the deep red color also meant to foreshadow her role in Foggy's supposed death in Bullseye, everything that goes back, like she's meant to literally and metaphorically have blood on herself. Bullseye then makes his play for escape using the broken tooth in the medical facility, taking out the guard and the doctor, taking his badge to escape on the bus and get past the gates. Matt then shows up trying to confront Kingpin at the party like he's not even thinking about Heather Glenn, but she winds up stopping him before he can make it to Kingpin. Notice how afraid Kingpin looks, like he grabs Cole North like, get ready, we might actually have a fight on our hands here. Matt starts to imply that he'll eventually explain what's really going on to Heather Glenn. Like I said, it sounds like he'll reveal his secret that he is Daredevil, in how he goes back with Kingpin, what their history is, and how Kingpin is tied to all these really shady things, and Vanessa as well too. They briefly cut to the Punisher cops and Powell taking someone from the press who snuck into the party and is trying to record it, using their power to basically just do whatever they want to, with the commissioner getting super pissed off at them, but not being able to actually stop them, even though technically he should be their boss.
Wilson Fisk was the main suspect in your uncle's murder?
They use this to set up the big reveal on Ben Urich's killing Kingpin and BB Urich and what she's actually been doing on the show this whole season. She basically starts to form a relationship, a friendship with the commissioner, saying that they'll help each other because he has files on all the corrupt cops that are part of this Punisher group of cops. So I'm assuming unless they completely wrap that part of the storyline up in the finale, she will continue as a character in season 2. Then I love the kinetic energy, the way they edited this whole last part of the episode, where Daredevil pulls Heather into the dance, trying to confront Kingpin on the actual dance floor, and you can hear Kingpin sort of speaking softly, knowing that Matt can actually hear him, and when he talks about consequences, he's referring to what happened with Muse and in putting the Daredevil costume back on. While this is going down, Buck Cashman confirms that it was Vanessa who was trying to have Bullseye killed, working with the guards inside the prison, who then himself enters the party, taking out one of the Punisher cops and using their gun to try and kill Kingpin. The big surprise here, he thought that Kingpin was the person who was trying to have him killed, not Vanessa, which is why he was trying to kill Kingpin, not Matt or Vanessa. While this is going down, Matt is confronting Vanessa, saying that he knows that it was her, and she tries to play it off like she has no idea what he's talking about. But the real big surprise of the episode is actually supposed to be that Matt saved Kingpin's life, because Bullseye, named literally in the title of his name, had Kingpin dead to rights and was about to kill him until Matt jumped in front of him and saved him. Him saving Kingpin also paying off Bullseye's line earlier saying that that's what good men do, defend their worst enemies, because he is literally defending his worst enemy with his life. Love the way they end the episode too, with him lying in a pool of his blood. In the camera, the light turns to red because red is Daredevil's color, also red for blood. We know he's going to be fine though, because he has to team up with Punisher in the finale, so maybe there'll be a small time jump, like he'll just have to be well enough for him to be able to fight with Punisher against this evil group of cops. There's also the question to what happens to Bullseye right after this moment too, because they end the episode with Matt lying on the floor. Bullseye is still inside the party. The Punisher cops are still there, so Bullseye has to escape in some way, or if he's going to continue to try and kill Vanessa and Kingpin. So we're basically heading into the finale with them having to resolve a couple big plot lines. They need to deal with Bullseye for the rest of this season. He's probably going to survive into season 2. Like, I don't think they're going to kill off Bullseye. Punisher has to come back. They have to deal with the Punisher cops. We know they're going to continue into season 2. So whatever they do in the episode, whoever Punisher winds up killing, they won't completely get rid of the vigilante task force. Kingpin will also still be mayor heading into season 2. That's not going to change either. My assumption is it won't be that big of a time jump, and they'll probably try to get the season out before Avengers Doomsday, or they'll say that it takes place before Avengers Doomsday, so they don't have to deal with a lot of the craziness that's going to be happening in that, with Doctor Doom literally showing up in the MCU and then collapsing the rest of the multiverse. Couple really big plot points that make it harder to do your ground level show when you have multiverse altering things going on around you in the background. And because Spider-Man is going to be taking place after Avengers Doomsday, but it'll also be taking place in the New York City where Kingpin is still mayor, we will see if anything they do in the actual finale foreshadows what's happening during Spider-Man. But overall, it was a great episode compared to a lot of the previous ones. Hopefully the finale will also be a banger and they can end the season pushing into season 2 in a really strong way. And because it is the finale, expecting a couple surprise cameos, so we'll see who winds up showing up in that last episode. If there's any other Easter eggs or references that you spotted in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, write them below in the comments. In my full episode 9 finale video we'll post next week after they release it, there's a bunch of big stuff coming up, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that stuff. Everybody click here for probably the weirdest Wolverine trailer that Marvel has ever tried to release. What are they doing with Wolverine? And click here for all my Daredevil episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.